Greetings and welcome to the All Facts Matter podcast, where we push back against corporate media propaganda with facts, evidence, and data. I'm Peter, the author of All Facts Matter. Let's begin. After the bloodbath that was the October employment situation summary, the Bureau of Labor Statistics was mathematically certain to issue a better report for November. And to their credit, the BLS succeeded in getting over that bar. And that was about the only way that the BLS actually exceeded expectations when you look at the data. Now, economists had largely shrugged off the absolutely horrific jobs numbers from October, and we're quite comfortable in predicting about 215,000 jobs would be created in November, a moderate level of job growth. And as it turned out, the BLS reports that 227,000 jobs were added in November. So the jobs report beat the economist's estimate by about 12,000 jobs. And that sounds pretty good. However, there's a rather significant miss. And that is that private sector employment, which was supposed to grow by about 200,000 jobs, only grew by 194,000. So about 6,000, it came up about 6,000 jobs shy. And so what that means is that, once again, government job growth is how you get this report to exceed expectations on the top level. So if you value private sector jobs more than government jobs, which most sane economist types do, that's not a good thing. You want the exceeding expectations to be happening in the private sector, not in government jobs. Now, we should note one positive thing in the November report. This was only the fourth time this year that the prior period corrections, going back 2 months, were all to the upside. In revising the September and October figures, the BLS added 32,000 jobs back into the September figure and added 24,000 jobs into October's figure. So the October numbers went from an appalling 12,000 jobs created to a slightly less bad 36,000 jobs created. And overall, because of these corrections, to date, there are 56,000 more jobs listed as having been created than there were before. That's a good thing. It's, we have to call them out when they're taking jobs away, like they did last month. So we should acknowledge when they're putting jobs back, like they did this month. However, that's where the good news ends, pretty much. What we're seeing in manufacturing, once again, is more weakness and really more shedding of jobs. The only reason that manufacturing employment posted overall gains for November was because there was an influx of 32,000 workers in the area of transportation equipment manufacturing. And what this number represents really is the Boeing workers coming off of their strike. If you recall, that labor strike was resolved earlier in the month. And so those people going back to work put 32,000 transportation equipment manufacturing workers in the month of November. And if you had taken that away, then your job growth in manufacturing across all sectors actually becomes negative. And as you can see, uh, outside of those one-time gains because of that labor strike, what we see in all the remaining sectors is throughout 2024 there has been continued shedding of jobs. We don't have as many jobs now as in manufacturing as we did, and we're steadily losing more and more. We're having months like August, like almost like June, where pretty much every sector uh, uh, was not, was shedding jobs, uh, and you know, this is the kind of weakness that we've been seeing all year. This is the kind of weakness I've talked about multiple times, and it's this is not good. You know, the manufacturing sector is where stuff gets made. That's where your cars get made. That's where your computers get made. That's where all the gadgets and widgets and Dumaflachis get made, and and anything that is put together and then sold is manufactured somewhere somehow. And the jobs that make those things, the jobs that produce all that stuff, are in a state of decline right now. And this is not healthy for the economy. It's not healthy for the manufacturing component of the economy. This is not. This is a very, very worrisome trend in terms of employment. And unsurprisingly, when you have that kind of weakness in manufacturing, um, unemployment is rising in this country. Yeah, at 161,000 workers becoming unemployed in November, that's a greater increase in unemployment in the unemployment level than what we had in October, where we had about 159,000. We had in November we had 161,000, and as we've seen, we have rising unemployment pretty much throughout 2024. Yeah, we've got 7 of the 11 months we're seeing the unemployment level increase. More people don't have jobs. There's only 4 months where we actually saw a decrease. Yeah, and this is, and because we see the levels of unemployment are going up, that's why we're seeing the rate of unemployment go up. And again, as I've commented before, unemployment rate has been going up since January 2023. So for the better part of 2 years, we've had rising unemployment in this country. Rising unemployment is not generally a sign of a healthy economy. This is an economy that is not producing enough jobs, is not keeping people employed, is not getting enough people into the workforce. And this is not a healthy trend for an economy. You want for an economy to be healthy, you'd like to see the overall trend of unemployment being downward. You want fewer people unemployed. You want more people employed. That's always going to be the way that it works. And perhaps more significant than the unemployment rate, is the employment population ratio, and that has been falling. Now, the employment population ratio is exactly what it says it is. It's the ratio of the people who have jobs to your overall population. And it had been at its highest level in 15 years, right before the COVID pandemic panic under Donald Trump during his first term. During the Biden administration, it's never gotten close. It had peaked at 61.1%, which is still too low in my book. It had never gotten that anywhere near that close to that in recent years. And for the better part of this past year, it has been falling. What this means is that as you increase jobs and as you increase people, you increase your population is growing faster than you're creating jobs. That's why your employment population ratio is going down, which means you're not creating enough jobs. We're not creating enough jobs. So even if you take that 227,000 jobs figure at face value, which I do not recommend you do, but if you did, what this ratio is saying is that we didn't create enough jobs. Even with 227,000 jobs being created, we did not create enough jobs. We need to be creating more jobs for the population that we have. And we're not right now. We're not doing that. We're not. So even if you accept the data at face value and say, oh yeah, we've got job growth. Well, we don't have enough. We don't have nearly enough job growth. We need to have much more. We need to be creating jobs. Not 227,000 jobs a month. We need to be creating 300, 400,000 jobs a month. That's what's going to get this ratio up to where Donald Trump had it in February 2020, and to then push it beyond that. Yeah. Right now, we're not doing that. That's not happening. And what's perhaps even more disturbing is that this ratio, of course, is spanned across all age brackets, but this means that young people are not getting into the workforce enough. They're not. We're having an increasing number of young people who aren't getting a job, who aren't getting into the workforce, who aren't learning those soft skills and technical skills to be able to build a future of wealth and prosperity going forward. The soft skills and people skills that people pick up on their first jobs very often are what carry them through the entirety of their working career. And so if young people aren't getting those first jobs, they're missing out on that very important level of skills development. And so their ability to find a job, hold down a job, work a job, build up prosperity, build up wealth with a job, all of these things become increasingly diminished the less you have young people getting jobs. And when you have a declining employment population ratio, part of what that means is that young people are not getting the jobs that they need to be getting. We're not getting enough. We're not getting nearly enough jobs growth. That however many jobs we created, it wasn't enough. And manufacturing again shows us how this comes about, because manufacturing employment in this country has been stagnant or declining for the better part of for over 2 years. And going back to October of 2022, we see that there was this curious inflection point where job growth in manufacturing basically flatlined. It had minimal incremental growth, only no real, no significant upward trend. And then, earlier this year, you started seeing a decline in manufacturing employment, which it still hasn't recovered from. But this is how you get that kind of declining employment population ratio when you have a sector that is completely stagnant as far as employment is concerned. It's not generating new jobs. It's not hiring new people. It's not bringing people into the into the equation. And so when you start having when you have an entire sector that's going stagnant like this, unsurprisingly, yeah, you're not going to have the same employment population ratio. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that as we can see, if we index total private employment and manufacturing to January of 2021, you see that in the February, March, April timeframe, the manufacturing employment diverged significantly from total private employment and began growing at a significantly slower pace overall. And so the weakness that led to this October 22 plateau, began to unfold all the way back in uh, early 2021. And this is the trend that we've been seeing for quite some time, and this, it's a trend that is getting better, not is getting worse, not better. So if manufacturing is not providing the jobs that are being reported, what is? Well, for the most part, the service sector. Service providing jobs have been the dominant mode of job creation, certainly for this year, and going back for other years as well. But it's not even close. The service sector is literally providing just about all of the jobs growth, the vast majority of jobs growth, I should say, in this country. And it's so dominant that there's only there's only been a couple of months, where really just 1 month actually, where it's not been the leading category of jobs created. And this is when you have significant job growth like this, of course that is a good thing. But what we need to note is that after service providing jobs, the next most prevalent form of job creation is government jobs. And we can see, if we take a look at the same graph but take out the service producing jobs, we see that government jobs outpace goods producing jobs virtually in every single month. I mean, November was only the second month all year that goods producing jobs rose higher than government jobs, and even that was just barely, barely by 1,000. Um, but in every other month, the government produced far more jobs than goods producing the goods producing private sector. Now, one way to look at this is that this means that our primary manufacturer in this country is government bureaucracies. This is what we're making the most of: government bureaucracies. Every time we hire government employees, we're expanding and enlarging government bureaucracies, which we know is a net drain on an economy. That's why when governments are trying to stimulate the economy, deregulation and getting government off the backs of the business people is something that they try to do. So if you're creating all this government bureaucracy, you're creating all these government jobs, you're not helping business, you're not helping the economy grow. So these jobs that are being created, these government jobs that are being created, they're not quote unquote quality jobs. What we want to see is goods producing jobs far outpacing government jobs. Ideally, you'd see goods producing jobs being added at roughly the same clip as service providing jobs. Sometimes perhaps even more. That would be ideal. But what we clearly don't want to see is this tendency of producing more government jobs than goods producing jobs. This is an economy that is increasingly inefficient, increasingly sclerotic, increasingly not efficient and not effective. Not good. This is not a good sign. And because we're not seeing the goods producing jobs that we want to see, because we're not seeing the manufacturing employment that we want to see, because we're seeing weakness in so many of the different metrics and different sectors of the report, we should not be surprised to find out that full-time employment itself is still in decline, very much in decline in this country. And 2024, there has only been 3 months where full-time employment growth was positive. And while full-time employment growth was relatively robust in 2021 and early 2022, by the summer of 2022, that had largely ended, and there was a brief interlude of robustness, uh, uh, in early 2023, and then it's basically been all downhill ever since. And what this means is that these are people who are not working a full 40 hours. They may not be working at all, or they're working a part-time job or something like that, but they're not working a full-time position. And you're seeing people losing full-time jobs. And if they're not working full-time, then that means they're not getting full-time pay, which means that their income is reduced, which means that their earnings is their purchasing power is reduced. So if people don't have full-time jobs, they don't have one of the key elements for economic growth in a country, because you need a full paycheck to be able to spend. If you don't make the money, you can't spend it. Yeah, and when you don't have a full-time job, it's a lot harder for you to make the money. Yeah, and unsurprisingly, and again, to show you just how all these numbers kind of just feed into each other, because we're seeing a decline in full-time employment, we're seeing a rise in the number of people not in the labor force. So what you see happening, and this is really disturbing, is that as people are losing their full-time jobs, they're just dropping out of the labor force altogether. They're bypassing unemployment and going straight to just, I'm not in the labor force. And as we can see, that's been rising steadily since early 2022, really, and has started picking up at a greater pace starting last fall. And as of this month, as of November, we have about 400,000 more people not in the labor force today than we had at the start of Joe Biden's administration. Yeah. Yeah. If you needed any more clues that Bidenomics is not working, this would be one of them. When you have more people not in the labor force at the end of your term than when you started, this is, again, it's not a good sign. Yeah, these are people who are not working. They're not even trying to work. They're not looking for a job. They're not looking for work. They're not looking to start a business. They're just simply not in the labor force, and that means that they're not productively engaged in the economy. They're not generating an income. Which means that they don't have, they have less money to spend. So things just start to pile up. Bad things just start to pile up from there. But if we want to have a prosperous economy, we want to see the number of people not in the labor force going down, like it was in 2021 and 2022. We want to get back to this, and we want to get away from that. Yeah. Now, even when people are working, however, they're not working as much. And I've pointed this out before as well. Once again, we have a trend where the number of hours an average worker works in a week is declining. It was for the Biden administration, it was at a high of 35 hours per week, and now it's down to about 34.3. And it has been oscillating between 34.2 and 34.3 for the better part of the last 6 months. Now, this kind of leads to a little bit of hope that maybe this this metric has kind of bottomed out for right now. And that we're not going to see any further declines in the average hours worked per week. What we'd like to see is this number go back up again. Because if people are working longer, if they're working more hours, they're getting a bigger paycheck, their disposable income is increased. Everything increases when they work more hours. And so we want to see, in the economy, we want to see people working more hours not less, as a general rule. Yeah, and all else being equal, we want to see that they're going to be that the people are going to be having uh, having full time jobs, full 40 hours a week, full paychecks. That's how you grow an economy. And yeah, when we look at all of these metrics, the thing that we have to keep that you have to keep in mind is that when you look at all of them, pretty much every single one of them has an inflection point sometime between late 2022 and early 2023. When did manufacturing plateau out? October 2022. When did full-time employment start to decline in earnest? Early 2023. Yeah, we see this in metric after metric after metric that between late 2022 and early 2023, things just stopped. Things just stopped growing. They stopped, moving in the right direction. They started deteriorating, started declining. And what this should be telling us is that, yes, we're still in a jobs recession. This is what a jobs recession is, where you have declining employment overall. Yeah. And that's what we've got. I mean, regardless of what the top numbers in the employment situation summary may say, the metrics underneath have for well over a year, and in some cases 2 years, shown weakness and decline. Fewer people are working full-time jobs. People are working fewer hours. People are working fewer manufacturing jobs. Relative to a growing population, fewer people are working, period. More and more people are either unemployed or have simply dropped out of the labor force altogether. And despite all of the high expectations of economists and experts, that type of reality, which the details reveal, show the job report to be completely underwhelming. Yeah. It's kind of foolish to talk about economic growth when you don't have meaningful job growth. And no matter what you massage out of the top level numbers, when you peel back the layers of and examine the gory details of the employment situation summary, the one thing you do not find is job growth. What you find is declining employment. What you find is rising unemployment. What you find is a rising number of people not in the labor force. It is true that the November employment situation summary is not the bloodbath, is not the jobs bloodbath that the October report was. However, that's not enough to make the November jobs report a good jobs report. And when you look at the details, it is apparent that this is not a good jobs report. And that's the presentation that I have for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative and useful. If you like this, and please share it out to your friends. Please also consider making either a one-time contribution or becoming a paid subscriber to All Facts Matter. Your support is what keeps this work going. I wouldn't be able to do it without you, and I greatly appreciate everybody's support. That is what keeps this work going, and I'm very thankful for every single one of my subscribers. So thank you one and all. And that's what I have for today. And thank you for listening. And have a nice day.